Hey friends, happy Monday morning. It is going to be a beautiful, beautiful day. Just wanted to share something that was on my heart this morning, something that I hope blesses you as much as it did me. Had a fantastic Bible study as always this morning, but I was in Psalm 131. Absolute gem. It's one of the Song of Ascents, and it's a Psalm of David. And I love this because David was renouncing his pride and his arrogance and his self-ambition. You know, David was known as a man after God's own heart, and he was because his eyes were set on the Lord. David was not a perfect man by any means. He struggled with pride. The Bible tells us that pride goes before destruction and haughty eyes before a fall. And we know that David had his battles with pride, but he learned to give it up. He learned to trust in the Lord and to trust in God's timing and God's placement. And this is where we have David. And it's such a lesson for us because he says, Lord, my heart is not proud, Lord. My eyes are not haughty. Neither do I concern myself with great things or things too wonderful for me or things too lofty, things too profound for me to consider. You know, he was saying, first of all, he renounced his pride. He said, my heart is not proud, Lord. He didn't come to this on his own. David had to daily discipline his flesh. You know, daily he had to go to the Lord and acknowledge that God's ways were much higher than his. He had to humble himself. Here's the great king of Judah who had reason for all pride. He had all power. He was in control of all the decision making. But at the end of the day, in order to get this humble spirit that David had to lay it down he had to lay it down before God and acknowledge that he was in the position he was in because God had put him there. You know, David had gone through his times in the desert, and he knew that he was in this position for what he was, for God's perfect timing. You know, Esther 4:14 says, for such a time as this, but he had to acknowledge it because it's so easy for us to get prideful. I tell you what, that's why we have to consider it pure joy when we encounter trials of various kinds, because the many things that trials do is they remind us that we are not in control. And this is where David was. He said, I'm going to lay down my pride. I'm going to lay down any arrogance that I may have, because pride leads to arrogance. It says, I'm a self-made man, instead of saying I'm who I am because God made me this way. And then he goes on to relinquish all selfish ambition, saying, Lord, I'm going to wait on your timing. You know, in Luke 14, verses 8 through 11, Jesus was very, very clear with the disciples that we are to wait on God's timing. We are to allow ourselves to be in whatever lowly place that God puts us in, because we are put there by God for his purpose, and that we are to be patient and wait for the Lord. If he wants to elevate us to a higher position, great. But if not, we need to be busy found working exactly where we are. I was reading in Spurgeon. Spurgeon said something very profound, and he said, the destroyer of good works is those who are waiting for great works. He said, you know, a man has to be content with preaching to a church of 5 before God will elevate him higher. But there's so many people out there will wait until they can preach to 5,000, and then they will never get anything done. That's what Spurgeon said. So my challenge to you today is this: to lay down any pride, any arrogance, and any self-ambition, and say to the Lord, Lord, I am yours. Use me where I am right now. And if this is where you plan for me to stay, let me stay here and work so joyfully. Let me sing praise songs because you are using me. Use me, Lord, however you want to. I am your instrument, Lord. And if it's your will to elevate me higher, Lord, I'll be happy to go there too. Use me, Lord, and help me to be content. Help me to strip away my pride, my arrogance, and any self-ambition, to give up my will for your will. I tell you what, when you do that, you will live the best life. I tell you what, you will be so on fire for the Lord, and this contentment that cannot be described is this peace in the Lord. It's this close relationship. So guys, that's my challenge for you today. I'm going to finish up my run and get off to the best job ever. It's going to be a great day.